Hey guys, my name is Big Tino and welcome back. Welcome back to From the Depths. Now, in the last video, I said that my goal, let me pause real quick, my goal was to destroy the Onyx Watch and do a build of my next ship. Now, unfortunately, it is the weekend, and I do have some weekend plans for this evening, so I don't have enough time today to completely build a ship, especially one that's going to be as big as what I have planned. So instead, this episode, we're going to destroy the Onyx Watch, and that will be it. Now, right here, this is the Onyx Watch Fortress. This is the Onyx Throne, worth a lovely 310,000 materials. There are a couple tiles here between us and them. There's also a fleet right here. Looks like they also have a base here that is just constantly pumping out fleets full of Defiance. Before I started this recording, I already destroyed one fleet of Defiance that somehow flew over this mountain range. And it looks like I will probably end up having to destroy another. So what's probably going to happen is I'm going to attack this tile, I'll destroy this base, and then I'll take the Onyx Throne. And then that'll probably be the end of the episode. After that, and off camera, I will just send some flying units over here to destroy this, because this is just one of their regular little bases, and it's pretty easy. Now, what I have done is I have built a second rock, and I've built 2 additional owlbears. And the reason I did this is because the last fight I did, which was this one, which was a Strength 150 Defense Force, I almost lost. Because I was so outnumbered in volume that even though my ships were winning one-on-one, I was being whittled away because there were so many of them. So now our fleet is a good bit larger. What I will probably do after we defeat the Onyx Watch is I'll go ahead and recycle the new rock and the 2 new owlbears, and their material will go into constructing the new ship. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll pull this Strength 150 fleet before these guys get to us. Because these guys, the Telemachus is a pretty easy ship to beat, but the Eerie, I believe, is a flyer, and it's the only Onyx Watch flyer, and I remember it being a pretty tough nut to crack. So let's see if we can take care of this fleet, this 150 fleet, before we handle that. And I'm just moving here. This rock flew really far away. Looks like a glaive, 2 glaives, Winter's Day, Hourglass, Clydesdale, Telemachus. Okay, well, you know. Gonna have to kill more of those glaives. Hopefully with the additional firepower that I've got, it shouldn't be too hard to just sort of burst the glaive down. And we're gonna move everybody over. I suppose I could have done this all in just one big click and drag, because I don't see myself not using everybody in this fight. But, you know, good enough. Let's move our rock up here to join its companions. We'll speed up, and once everybody's close, we'll get the fight started. Or we'll get the fight started sooner rather than later. Why aren't you moving? Okay, there are a couple of you. Because I don't want this fleet to also join this fight, because that could be very bad for me. Everybody there. What are you? Packnell. Okay. That is good. Let's get this started. Ooh, this is a big fight. Whole lot of blocks. Okay, I am this time outnumbering them a good bit, so I'm going to get rid of some people. Take out the Pathfinders. Looks like I may need to take out one of the owlbears. Okay, now we're about even. 73 to 67. Pretty close. Let's place everybody. I'll get the Sahuagin in just sort of a little half circle here. There we go. My 2 rocks be in the air, and then I'll have 3 owlbears just kind of going towards them, ominously looming their way. And then the pack mule could stay really, really far away. Alright. Let's see. Well, there might be a little bit of a collision here. I'm hoping these ships don't just spawn all on top of each other, but we'll have to see. Let's get to it. Everyone's on. Alright. Let's pause briefly and see what they've got against us. Yeah, these two are close to each other and certainly ramming each other, but they're not, like, on top of each other, which is the real problem. That's a cool ship. I like that ironclad design. That's really cool. I do love the Onyx Watch. Alright, pretty standard stuff. 2 glaives, which are going to be annoying, but what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to focus fire on them this time. I'm just going to let my units target what they can, and hopefully their repair will not be able to keep up. Yeah, we're going to have some lag at the start just because they're all next to each other and they're all kind of ramming each other a little bit. Still very pleased with the new frag cannons on the Rock. I think they work much better than the old autocannons did. Whole lot of firepower coming towards these guys, and they do have some nasty broadsides coming our way, which hopefully the Rocks will be able to dodge. Looks like several big hits there on what I believe is the Clydesdale. But that glaive is using its laser defense system to protect it. Oh, I do hate that ship, the glaive. Alright, some good hits. Looks like we've damaged some of their guns, which is good. Now, the other Rock is focusing on this guy, who does not seem to have the glaive's protection. So hopefully we'll do a bit more damage there. Couple of nice hits. Yeah, our next battleship, the ship that I'm going to build next, is going to have a laser defense system because it's so useful. Because it can not only protect itself but also its allies. It's just a really, really useful thing to have. And it'll also be our first craft that uses shields. Because it's going to have both shields and a laser defense system, and I don't want it to be super expensive, I'm not going to have it use any energy weapons just because having a laser defense system, shields, and an energy weapon all together is a pretty intense energy cost. Looks like our guys are doing okay. A couple of torpedoes coming in from the Sahuagin. Scoring some good hits underneath. Now the thing about torpedoes is that usually at the bottom, just for the sake of having a low center of mass, they're just a lot of blocks. And so you do kind of have to chew through them. But once you're through them, the bottom is also normally where all the important explosive gubbins go. And so torpedoes can be very effective given time and a bit of luck. But in this case, looks like we just missed him. That is a shame. A lot of missile hits coming in against this little Telemachus here. I believe that's one of the little Telemachuses. Telemachi. I don't know. These things are so adorable, but a big wave will just straight up roll them over. A lot more hits against the Clydesdale here. Looks like we are focusing this thing pretty well. This thing does have some pretty heavily layered armor on it, considering it's a broadsiding ship. But we've done a little bit to it, you know, a few little hits here and there. Chip the paint. And those glaives are still knocking out a lot of our munitions, so yeah, I'm going to force target this one just because they are such good support ships for the enemy. And if I can just overwhelm its munition defense system with everybody shooting at it at once, I can hopefully take it down quickly. Here comes the cram shells from the Owlbear. Scoring one good hit there on the top. Yeah, doing some pretty good damage there. Whole lot of shots coming in from the two rocks. Unfortunately, we are in degraded mode just because of how big this battle is, so we don't get those lovely shell trails, but otherwise, I think it's still okay. This thing does have a great munition defense system. It really, really does. It's such a well-designed support ship. That might be something that I build in the future, actually, is take a page out of the Onyx Watch book here and just build a primarily support ship. Something that, like the Glaive, just has a really good munition defense system, has some repair capabilities, and just sort of sticks in the middle of the fleet. I think that would probably be a pretty good investment for me. Thankfully, we are shooting it with enough stuff to where we're overwhelming its munition defense system. We're getting some good hits there. You can see the frag shells impacting the sides, doing some damage here or there, though their main damage is just from the fact that they hit the same target over and over and over again, reliably. A bit like the grenade launchers on the Owlbear, actually. Not a ton of burst damage, but just a whole lot of sustained DPS. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Good hit there. Looks like maybe a little bit of internal damage. We've mostly destroyed its cannon, which, you know, is meh. It's a pretty weak cannon anyway. This thing is really more of a defense ship. How are we doing? Okay. We're actually doing very well. Everyone's in pretty good shape. One of the owlbears has taken about 5% damage. The other two have taken a little bit of damage, but again, taking damage is what the owlbears are for. More of the big shells coming in from the rocks. Getting some more good hits there. We're slowly whittling away at this thing's armor. Alright, good explosion there. Just took out its main gun. All that's left of this thing is its munition defense system and, of course, its ability to heal others. Now, it can't heal itself, because that's one of the rules of the From the Depths faction ship designs. They can't heal themselves, but they can have repair tentacles, which allow them to heal others. A couple of good torpedo hits there, although it looks like, oh, maybe we got some internal explosions there. I think we may have set off a chain reaction, lifting it out of the water just a little bit. Yep, I can see things going up on the inside of this. We're getting some explosions. Hopefully that means this thing will go down soon. And then, honestly, I'll probably target the other one, because glaives are kind of my nemesis. They're just so good at keeping the enemy ships up and operational. Such a good design, it really is, and it's very hard to take out. And for as powerful a laser defense system as this is, it's a pretty cheap ship. It's only 82,000 points. It's cheaper than the Rock. Let's see. Is this thing too damaged or anything? It is not. Looks like the missiles are sort of doing their own thing, which I'm fine with. Just sort of scattering missiles over the battlefield is a good way to keep people occupied, spread some damage out so that, you know, it's not just one person being repaired constantly. Looks like this owlbear is taking a few little hits here and there, but it's still alright. I do love the look of cram cannons, and I love the fact that they are just like a big punch in the face, but I don't think I've ever built a cram cannon that is as good as an advanced cannon for the same point cost. And if there are ways to make them better, then, and you guys have ideas and suggestions for that sort of thing, let me know. But yeah, I just... Probably the next build is going to be mostly advanced cannons, even like high gauge advanced cannons, rather than cram shells. Big hit there, setting off some sort of internal explosion. Oh, this poor thing is just getting bombarded. But for all the damage that it's taking, it is still up, and that's pretty impressive. Looks like we are still okay. I think most of the ships in this fight have pretty slow firing cram cannons. That being said, something may have just hit that Sahuagin over there. Yep, one of them is down to 88%. Yeah, you can see that some of these shells from these middle enemies are coming out towards the Sahuagin and that sort of thing. So that shot launched this thing into the air, but it's still moving. Even if it is... Oh no, it lost the control block that tells its nose thrusters to turn on. So either this thing is going to get repaired or it's going to fly to space. We shall see. Getting back into the fight, I can see several big explosions hitting that glaive. That is awesome. Hopefully we can bring it down soon. It looks like the Clydesdale has flipped over. Ooh, I'm guessing those were some torpedo hits. Massive damage there. I can see a chain reaction going through the ship. Awesome, awesome. Another really cool design. I like the fact that it has these big advanced cannon turrets on the front and back, as well as broadsides. I think that's a cool combo. But let's look and see how that glaive we've been focusing on is doing. Looks like we have an owlbear that has just marched right up to it. Which again is what owlbears do best. Still hitting it with a lot of things. A lot of shells, missiles, torpedoes, all of it is just hitting this thing. Oop! Something big just detonated on the inside, big enough to launch it out of the water in the explosion. Unfortunately causing a missile to just go right underneath it. Good dodge mechanic there. Somehow its laser defense system still operational, which is amazing. Yep, we are still doing okay. Whenever I bring this up, I'm looking at the percentages of our ships here, and that's just their health. Making sure no one has taken a devastating hit or anything. Okay, now what? This thing's at 72% health. Man, it can take such a beating. Still just hammering away at it. I would focus on something else if its laser defense system also went down, but it's still up. That of course makes it harder to hit, and it makes it harder for us to shoot past it to hit its allies. Which is why, even though it's badly damaged and out of weapons, I'm still focusing on it. Need this thing to blow up. You can see these are the fragments coming in from the new Rock's frag cannons. The frags are designed to fire into a cone in front of them rather than into a big circle, but they are bouncing off the armor, which is why the frags are bouncing like that. Now, frag shells were nerfed pretty heavily not too long ago because they used to be sort of the end-all be-all damage type, because it would be the same number and damage of frags regardless of what cone of frags you wanted them to throw, because when a frag shell hits, it releases fragments. And you can set in, a firing cone, so it's like in a 20-degree cone in front of you, shoot your fragments out. And what it used to be is that if you put it into just a 1-degree cone, or like a 10-degree cone or something, it would take all the fragments and push them all into this one line that would just devastate things because it was such concentrated damage. What they've done is they've nerfed them, and I think in a very good way, to where the fragments, there are fewer fragments that do less damage the tighter the cone. Now it's still worth it, I think, in a directed damage shell to have a directed cone of fragments, because they just kind of be wasted if they go into a big circle, right? Now there are occasions when having them fired just into a sphere around them would be good, like if you want to, shoot down enemy missiles, or if you have like a combo flat gun to shoot down fast flyers and it just explodes in proximity. That can be really awesome. But for just a targeted weapon, it's still better, in my opinion, to have a narrow cone. And it looks like the frag shells have just sort of dug a hole all the way in here. This is their engine and the massive laser system they have here. Or not massive. It's a decent size. There are certainly ships that have much bigger laser systems than that. Alright, well, I think this thing is on its way out. So let's go check out something else. Looks like, surprisingly, the Clydesdale is still there. It's on its side, its weapons are damaged or broken, so it's not doing a whole lot, but it is still there. This guy is trying really hard to hit that Sahuagin, but you can see his cannon barrels are just sort of darting all over the place to try to find a good targeting solution against our, well, skippy little water skimmer. Of course, if he does get one hit, any of these cram cannons would destroy that thing. So, you know, give and take. Looks like we've got a couple hits on that rock there. A couple of explosions. One is down 4%, one is down 1%, so I don't think that was too bad. Like I said, even if a ship has a really good firing solution on the rock, and hits it really hard in its broadside, it does have some really, really good armor, at least in terms of the early game. It's got a lot of layered and space armor on its sides, so it really can take a lot of hits. And just because the placement of the turrets on the bottom, most of the enemy attacks will come to more of the top area, or the central area, and ignore the cannons, which I think is a pretty good thing. Okay, we are firing on other targets, so it looks like we have destroyed that first glaive. This glaive is out of the way and away from the rest of the fleet, so I'm not going to force target that thing. And I'm just going to let our ships target whatever they want to target. Our owlbears are sort of circling around like sharks here. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot left in the enemy's fleet. Little Telemachus there. Clydesdale's out of the fight. This thing is still operational. These things are pretty hardy. Is this the Hourglass? Yeah, this is the Hourglass. These things I found are pretty hardy. They have some pretty good cannons on them too. But like with most Onyx Watch ships, armor is their big thing. And hey, look, they shot my chair. The ship itself is fine, but my chair is gone. Definitely going to have to make the next ship that I build have a much more armored cabin for me to sit in. Still going to make it on the outside though, with some glass looking out, just because I like that. I don't like being buried inside the bowels of a ship. I like to be able to have a place on a ship where I can see out. That just makes sense to me. Looks like this rock and this owlbear are targeting the other glaive, which I am fine with. They'll just keep it busy while everybody else destroys the other things. A whole lot of missiles just sort of spraying out of the rock. What are you trying to target? Okay, so this guy's trying to target the rock. That cannon is going crazy. I may have damaged this thing's detection system. Or part of its AI, or something like that. We're going in slow-mo again because something has blown up. I still haven't turned that option off, and I'm honestly not sure that I want to, just because I like that effect. I do like that. But I may still, honestly. It does slow things down a bit, especially when lots of things are blowing up. Good torpedoes coming in here. And I assume that detonated. It just, you know, didn't have the animation. There we go. Actually, are these... No, these are the missiles that are just... They're diving down under the water to hit this thing, which is mostly submerged. And their momentum is just carrying them to the target, which is nice. So while we're finishing this fight up here, things I want to build next. Like I said, I really want to build the a bigger battleship next for to fight the White Flayers, which I think is going to be the next faction that I fight. And I also want to build a submarine, because I don't have any submarines yet. I have a plane, I have an airship, I have a couple of boats, don't have a submarine yet. So we'll probably build, we're going to build the battleship in the next episode, and then fight the White Flayers for a little bit. Then we'll build a submarine, just sort of based on our experience fighting the White Flayers, see what we need in order to fight them, sort of specialize our submarine to fight them. Okay, well, looks like the enemy ships have mostly turned off, so I'm going to fast forward through the rest of this fight, and we'll come back when we have more things to kill. Alright, next battle. This is the one against the two Telemachai, and one of the Eries. We'll see how this goes. Looks like I am... Excuse that little text message there. I am really vastly outnumbering them here, so let's take out a few things. Let's take out the Pathfinder. The other Pathfinder. We'll probably take out some owlbears here. I don't think the owlbears will be that helpful in this fight anyway. But you know, let's just go with this. Let's go with this. I don't want to cripple myself too much just because it's a small fleet. Just set everybody up here, get those owlbears nice and close. Alright. Let's do it. We'll take a look at the Erie too, see if it's the ship that I'm thinking of. If it is the big airship, then that might be trouble. Just because the Rock is not designed to fight other enemy airships. Yep, looks like it. Looks like it's something that is taking off. Whole lot of big cram cannons on this thing. Really cool design. Weirdly sleek for an Onyx Watch ship. And then, of course, these two little guys here, which probably are going to be taken out by the torpedoes. Okay, it looks like the Erie does have laser defense systems. That could be problematic, but I'm not super worried. I honestly do think that like the owlbears are going to be very good against this. Those grenade launchers are going to just come in and, you know, peter away at it. Yeah, a lot of good shells coming in from the owlbears. Because its munition defense system is able to shoot down the larger shells, but it has a really hard time with smaller shells, like with the owlbear's grenade launcher. Also has shielding, it looks like, although we are damaging its weapons already. Most of my weapons that are explosive have inertial fuses, which means if they hit a shield, they'll just go ahead and explode anyway. And that will help to damage things past their shields. Big hit there, a lot of blocks chunking off. I am going to just focus on this thing because those little guys are not really much of a threat. They have tiny little weapons. And they are themselves tiny, and I imagine the torpedoes from the Sahuagin are going to make pretty short work of them. Because they certainly will not be able to hit this guy. Looks like if we hit the thing in the back, its munition defense system is not really able to defend it. Got kind of a blind spot back there. So we're just sort of hammering away at the back there with those missiles. Probably with some shells too. Yeah, it looks like there's some frag shells in there as well. The other Rock is able to fire at it, probably just because of the distance. Get far enough away, and even the slightest little angle will let them shoot this thing. But you can see that the This rock, the one that's closer, the one that the Eerie is focusing on, is having a hard time shooting back just because its guns are aimed down rather than up. It's scoring a lot of hits on the rock. That's a hit right there on the back. Yeah, taking out some of the thrusters there. Glad I was not sitting in this thing because, hey, look. Oh my god, I am... Well, yep. Never mind. Never mind. Let's go ahead and sit in the other rock. I do like the look of the rock from above. It's just... It's almost like a little town. Or maybe like a flying castle or something. You could call me Howl. Yeah, the Eerie is still staying in the air. Those laser defense systems really do make a big difference, especially if you can get good coverage on them. And with a ship like the Eerie, which is designed to face its target, clearly, having a laser defense system is even easier just because you know exactly where you want to face your lasers. You don't need to spread them out all over. Of course, what that means for this ship in particular is that it does have a really big blind spot on the back, so our shells are just coming in and hitting it in the back. But it is bullying this rock really hard. Yeah, it looks like the rock is down to just one main thruster, which is on its left side. So it's going to have to be fighting movement force to the right as well as straight ahead. But it looks like they took out the other the other thruster as well. So it's just going to kind of chill there. Yeah, this is the exact sort of ship that the rock is just not good against. Is a big airship. Really big hit on the back side of the rock here. I'm just hoping that our other ships can take out the Eerie before the Eerie takes out this rock. What percentage? It's at 96% health. Oh boy. I think the problem is that it's been chasing this rock so far away from the fight, everything else is kind of missing. Yeah, you can see all those shots just sort of going wide. Because it's so far away. We're struggling to get close to it. So I think what I'm going to do, because I see this going poorly and I see this taking a long time, I'm going to pull this rock out of the fight. And that way the Eerie is going to be forced to come back at the rest of my fleet here. And that way we can get some shots off on it just because we'll be closer. Now it does suck that we're not going to be hitting it in the back anymore. But I think this will be better in the end. And certainly better than losing a rock. Because that one was lost. Now what that means is I can't bring that rock back into this fight, so it's effectively lost. But as long as I win this fight, the rock is not destroyed. Of course, if I lose this fight, then the rock will be destroyed. Ooh, wow, looks like something hit one of the Sahuagin there. Not that the Sahuagin are going to be doing a lot in this fight, but I'm very surprised. I'm guessing it was the little Telemachus there. Yeah, with the distance we have on this thing, we're just not doing a whole lot against it because it's moving up and down pretty erratically. It's definitely not keeping a stable course. And so our shells are having a really hard time tracking it because we don't really have a whole lot that's fast moving. You can see those blue shells there. That is the top cannon, the rapid fire advanced cannon on the rock's deck. And that's actually getting some hits in here. Because this thing is shielded, and shields do hard counter rapid-fire advanced cannons, but it doesn't look like it's a very thorough shield. Looks like there are lots of weak points. Or openings. Alright, here it comes. Much closer to us. And yeah, you can see those defense lasers, rather, are able to just completely negate our missiles. So we are going to have to rely on those cannons. Have been doing, it looks like, a good bit more damage to it, down to 93%. That's awesome. Yeah, this thing is a beast, and it's also a ship type that we are just not designed to fight. Because it is the only airship that the Onyx Watch has, I didn't design anything to really combat airships that much, which is something I'll definitely need to change, because if I remember correctly, the White Flares, which is the next faction I'm going to be fighting, have a whole lot of air things. Airships, planes, that sort of thing. So the battleship that I build next should be able to fight airships as well as sea ships. Grenade launchers coming in, scoring a couple will hits there, but mostly missing because it is just bouncing up and down. That's probably 100 meters that it's going up and down. Couple of good hits there, though. Chucking away some blocks. Yeah. The owlbear's detection system is actually very reactive, so when it's at its very top or its very bottom of these sort of bounce cycles, they should be in a pretty good shape to be able to actually hit the thing. Yeah, it looks like now we're getting some good hits on it. And yeah, it looks like the Erie is an anti-airship because this thing is very much just sort of zeroing in on the rocks and doing a lot of damage to them. But the owlbears, now that they're nice and close, are giving this thing a pretty hard time. Some good hits from those grenade launchers. Weird, I guess, to be fighting an airship with grenade launchers, but I'm not sure what else to call those guns. Originally I designed them to be mortars, but they shoot so quickly that I don't think mortar is really a good name for them. So yeah, I think grenade launcher works. It looks like we have taken out, or we've damaged this big side cannon here. Haven't completely destroyed it yet. But yeah, the owlbears are just chunking away at this ship. Yeah, it looks like that entire half of the enemy ship is just completely gone. That half of weapons are completely gone. And if we can just damage its lift, if we can get it to where it can't keep itself in the air, or maybe damage one side of its lift where it rolls over, or something like that, this thing will be a cakewalk, because then the rock's weapons will be able to target it as long as it gets lower than the rock. But we do need to just keep dishing out damage to this thing. Unfortunately, it looks like the Erie is faster than the owlbear. So they're gonna have to keep playing catch up. Let's see how damaged it is now. Got down to 88. And our rock is not taking any damage yet. Or just superficial damage. You can see our Sahuagin out there just sort of circling around. Their weapons are programmed to only fire things in the water, obviously, so they're not actually launching any weapons. They're just sort of, you know, doing their thing. Now that I think about it, I kind of wish I had brought the Pathfinders into this fight, because their cannons, the Hess shells, would have actually been pretty good against this, because they have a pretty good muzzle velocity and can aim in all directions. But I don't think we're going to lose it. I think it might just take us a while to bring this thing down. Looks like we have dropped another of their guns. And it's dipping down pretty hard. Does that mean we've damaged? Nope. It's pulling back up. It's actually a pretty good defense mechanism for this thing to be able to just sort of wobble through the air like this. Although it looks like we have destroyed its laser defense system, because now our missiles are just sort of coming in and hitting it without any problems. Looks like it's got one defense laser left right there, which is not enough to keep up with the damage or the angles we're shooting at it from. Getting a lot less stable here. It is rocking all over the place. Get it? It's rocking all over the... Never mind. I'm tempted to cut here and just sort of finish this off camera, but this thing is putting up such a good fight. I really do want to show, you know, what a ship is like when you could just hammer away at it and hammer away at it, and it's still there. I'm sure this thing has a million redundancies in it, which is why it's taken so much damage, and it's still flying just fine. But I'll be back when this thing starts to go down. Alright, the Erie is going down. Or it's dissolving. Put up a really good fight, and this does sort of showcase that we have a pretty glaring gap in our ability to fight airships. Down it goes. Alright, it is time to take on the Onyx throne. This is the capital of the Onyx Watch, and it's going to be our last battle for today. Even though you can see they have several more fleets here, and there is a small base here as well that I'm going to take out. I'm going to handle all of that off camera, so that this will be our last battle on camera against the Onyx Watch. Next episode, we'll go ahead and build our next ship, and we'll start fighting the White Flares. So let's go ahead, get into this. Let's see if the Onyx Throne is as cool as I remember it being. Now, my plan... just like with the Davy Jones outpost, is to damage this enough to where it's no longer a threat. And then I will go in and capture it. Because it is a building, so I don't feel bad about that, and it's worth a lot of resource. And that is pretty awesome. Whole lot of smoke there from all the guns firing. Man, that's so cool. I love how they did sort of the tiered steps there leading up to the main cannon. But because it is just a giant hunk of metal, even if it does have a lot of good cannons on its own, it does mean that we can just sort of move around it and pound it. Which is why I said before that I don't put a whole lot of stock in really heavily defended bases, because I find that usually they will lose, even to smaller forces, just because they can't really move around. You can just sit there and hit them, which is what we're doing now. Whole lot of shots coming in here. It looks like it does have a laser defense system, which is good, but not good enough to stop all the munitions we're throwing at it. Lots of torpedoes coming in from the Sahuagin. I did bring my entire fleet into this battle, just because I felt it would be nice and epic. A lot of explosions going on the front there, although we are very far from actually destroying it. Let's see, you can see my owl bears coming in. Looks like one of the rocks is actually down. It's in the water. But it doesn't look very injured. In fact, it may have just been that I didn't spawn it in correctly. But I'll spawn on top of it all the same. Yeah, the fortress is definitely focusing on this. Oh yeah, it's definitely hitting that rock. Hopefully we can damage its weapons enough to render it pretty inert fairly quickly. Though it does have a lot of those guns. Looks like we've already taken out a lot of the ones in the front here. Another big explosion there on the Onyx Throne. I love this kind of boss. I gotta say, this is exactly the kind of boss that I enjoy fighting. Just a big hunk of hit points that I can, you know, throw things at. Owlbear is doing just fine coming in here. There's the fourth one. They're going to be doing quite a lot to this thing. They probably will do the most damage to this thing just because of those grenade launchers are going to do so much consistent damage. And that rock is down to 92%. The other one's down to 94. The Onyx Thorn's definitely focusing on the rocks, which I'm fine with. Like I said, I am going to get rid of one rock and two owlbears after this fight, just that I can build my, or I'll have enough points to build my battleship, which I want to be worth around 300,000 points, just because that's going to be about the amount of resource we'll have lying around, especially if I can capture this thing, which I am stripping its guns off bit by bit. If I can get it to damaged enough to where it's not really firing back at me too much, looks like there goes another turret, then I'll move in and capture it guilt-free. Big explosion there on the main gun, and it looks like the main gun has been damaged because its gauge just went way down. That's a very good sign. Both rocks taking some damage. It looks like they may have damaged the thrusters on this one. Or actually, this rock is flying straight at the throne. I guess it was out of range. Taking a few hits there. It looks like it's damaged some of the front guns, but mostly it's still okay. It's good that we are sort of circling this thing so that we can hit those guns all over. It looks like a giant explosion on the inside there of the Onyx Throne. Just a little more damage, and I will run in, find that AI, and destroy it. Because what you have to do to capture a vehicle is you have to destroy all the AI mainframes and then be standing on it. Or else be on a vehicle that's in contact with it. So like a ramming vehicle can capture things pretty easily. A lot of hits on my rock there. Cram cannons are certainly impressive when they land. It looks like there is a bit of damage that has been done to the side of this thing, but mostly it's still okay. Our two owlbears are sort of hugging there. Lots of big explosions going on inside the Onyx Throne. It looks like this cannon just was shut off. That cannon is off. Those two cannons are off. These two smaller ones are still on. And, okay, I think we have damaged this thing enough to where I'm not going to make them stop fighting. But I am going to board and see if I can capture it. So let's swim on over there. Thankfully, the owlbears like to get nice and close, so I am pretty close to it. Now I'm going to cut out most of the capturing process because it really will just be me, you know, mini-gunning a wall for a while. But I'll show this part just because this is kind of a cinematic view of the fall of the Onyx Throne. Whenever I'm, you know, not underwater. Looks like it has changed targets. Its gun is just moving to someone else. Maybe the other rock got in the air. It is just such an impressive structure, it really is. It's so cool. There goes another of its turrets. And a nice big explosion. Looks like it does have one rapid-fire advanced cannon. Ooh, big hit there, whatever that was. And I'm going to get inside this thing. I do not know where its AI is, but being in the middle is usually a good start. In fact, I'm willing to bet that the AI is in one of these big metal boxes here. Metal boxes. So let's see. Alright, yeah, we've essentially stripped this thing down to its parts. I'm going to fast forward here as I saw my way into this thing and claim it for myself. And here it is, the Onyx Throne in our lovely blue and silver colors. I'd say it's an improvement. Actually, no, I wouldn't. I don't like how the how the blue looks just covering a ship. I think the blue needs to be used pretty sparingly. Anyway, that's the Onyx Watch. Now, we do have, there's this little base here, there are several little fleets coming at us, there's this base here, so they're not completely gone. I will take this resource base as well, but I'm going to do all that off camera so that the next time we are together, I will be building a battleship, and then after that, we'll start fighting the white flares. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.